I would ask you how the game looks, but I know it looks like trash because I have my settings on extra low. A lot of people are learning this game for the first time, and a lot of people have been making great videos talking about the approach to the game. I've seen like all kinds of collabs. I got like Landon, VDX been doing mad work. All these people trying to get people playing Tekken and working with other players. Brian F trying to play the game, Diaphone trying to play the game, and all of them have been making great stuff trying to teach other people about the process of learning it, right? What I wanted to do was kind of explain a concept or an approach to the game that is very popular in Japan, and it's the way they conceptualize Tekken for beginners here. This game has like hills and valleys where you boot up, and for some people they get instantly kind of overwhelmed with the amount of attacks. They don't know what to do where. They know like, okay, I know how to move around basically, but I don't know, what attacks do I have? Where should I do them? All that other stuff, right? What's most important is that you start with a core, a very small selection of normals or buttons that you can get used to using. You also want to arrange those attacks in categories. And this is a popular way of kind of conceptualizing the game in Japan. And it's called the Sansukumi. But it's, let's think of it as like a rock, paper, scissors, right? So the first one that I want to present is the Okiwaza. And what that really means is it's like a poke or a space control normal. You can think of it that way. And a great example of this is Paul's uppercut. Now why? Because this whole range here, if he makes contact like that, when players are trying to run in, you get that launch. And what's even better is on block, it's safe too. So even if it's blocked, you're basically just throwing out a free launch attack. So this is a really good space control normal, and he has a lot of them. But I think just starting and just understanding the power of this move is a good approach, especially at this range. And even like one of the classics is you whiff it once, do it again. Because if they react a little bit late and they try to attack, and that's the idea here is, so like at this range, right? This is about controlling the space. Players that are trying to get in on you, right? So players who are trying to attack you, right? They're trying to get in. This is a showstopper. All this space belongs to me. You cannot interfere with my range and my control here. You are not going to be able to contest with normal attacks. You have to respect it. So think about this concept. Players that are trying to come in and attack, you have buttons or attacks that occupy that space in front of you and are good for intercepting them. And a great example of that is this uppercut. Every character has a version of this. Not all of them are made equal. Paul's is excellent. So again, the whole point is starting with a small core of attacks and having an idea of ranges to use them at, and also how they're going to interact with your opponent's activity and what they're trying to do. So the idea here is find characters, find their Okiwaza. Another good example is like maybe some characters just standing right kicks. Another good option. Uppercuts. Really good uppercuts or far hitting uppercuts are great for this as well. Buttons like this, these big space control normals like that. Now the question is, okay, well, if your opponent is controlling the space really well like that with attacks like these, how do you deal with that? So for example, this is Raven's uppercut. His is a little bit slower, and it hits far, but again, a little bit slower. But if, again, you're fighting an opponent who is stopping your advances by doing these kinds of space control attacks like that, right? What should you do? Well, if it misses, if their attack does not make contact, you whiff punish them. So if they're trying to poke you with attacks like that from far away, your response is visually move out of the way. And you can do this by backdashing, moving backwards, moving to the side even in a lot of cases. Visually seeing the attack miss and punishing them. You see the whiff, and your answer is whiff punish them. A lot of attacks in this game, there are properties that they have on hit and on block, but on whiff, if they don't make contact, the opponent is locked into recovery time. During that recovery time, have an idea of what attacks for your character you want to go to quickly be able to strike the opponent and make them hurt. So for Paul, I suggest, this move does a lot of things, but this is an easy one. Death Fist. That's another good one. The leaping jump punch. But the point is, visually see the whiff and strike. There's two ideas here, right? I want to control space against players who are trying to get in on me. And against players who are controlling space, I want them to whiff that attack and then strike them for it, right? So what about the players that are doing a good job of being able to, who are waiting to see whiffs like that, who are waiting to visually see a whiff and then try to attack you that way, right? And there are lots of good options for that too. Well, against players who are waiting to see what you're doing, you go in and press your offense. And that little circle, that chart like that, right? That's when you can press your offense, mostly by pressing options that are going to go mid or low. So for example, for Paul, what I would suggest is back four is a really good one. His down four one has a lot of options off of it if you really explore, and we'll get to this later, but his down four one's really good. But the other obvious one is if they're waiting to see a whiff, move around with them. They're waiting to see a whiff. You're not giving it to them. Got them. Demo man. And it's on them to block low or mid there, right? Another great one. His 4-4-2 series. This attack is a lunging attack like that. It covers a lot of ground really, really quickly. You can also use it as a whip punisher in a lot of cases. But it forces a defensive situation against the defender where they're going to have to make a very quick series of like double fuzzies to try to beat this string. You can go low after, you can go... He has a high option, you know, he has options after this initial strike to where if they block it, they're put into a mix. And that's the thing. Finding attacks like these for your respective character to be able to try to categorize them into, okay, I should be looking to use these attacks in this situation at this range. So, again, think about the gameplay in terms of poking, right? Poking at range, trying to control space. Waiting and seeing for a whiff and going for a punish. And then going in. Going in and forcing your mix-up. With attacks like these. Paul is a really easy example to look at because of the way his move list is. And it's one reason why I think a lot of people will recommend him as a beginner character, because he's not really that gated by execution requirements or anything like that. You can kind of just look at a lot of the attacks on his move list and see the value of them in some of these situations in specific ranges. But every character to different degrees have attacks that you can categorize like this. Now there's one more thing that I want to put out there, and it's this. I'll give you an example. So here's another element to this that you can kind of put in there, and it's something that as you get better at the game and as you play more will make more sense to you, and you'll be able to see a lot more. But some characters, you remember when I was talking about Paul, the value of his uppercut. It has like built-in, it's like some slight evasive properties to it. Has great range, launches, you're gonna get mad damage after this, and it's safe. You can just do it. Like I said, every character has a version of this kind of attack, but not all of them are made the same. And I'll show you an example. Victor's is also excellent. His uppercut, that was it. Hits from, just take a look at it. Hits from so far away. So when he's trying to use Okiwaza or try to intercept your advances like that, you have to be scared of this attack, because similar to Paul, he can do big damage off of this. But there's a catch. His uppercut is not safe. So what that means is, the more you learn about the game and certain characters' attacks and quirks to their attacks, right? So the quirk that his uppercut is, while good and has good range, it's not safe. There's a fourth element to this triangle relationship that you're going to want to keep on your plate. And this is something that as you get better at the game, you'll passively notice people doing this to you, at low level even. And that's blocking. So you can also, remember what I said, right? We can, against these kinds of players, we can go in and try to press our offense, but you can also dash, block, and punish. See? So if you know a character has an option that is not safe like that, don't be afraid to throw feints into the mix. I'm gonna come in. You're looking for the uppercut, right? This is the fourth point of the triangle. And you get a touch. And as you get better, you'll find better punishes. And you do that simply by just dashing and holding back. And that's the basic idea of the Sansukumi. And it depends, again, you can look at your characters, but just to give you some ideas, right? For Paul, I told you, start with the small core of attacks. Don't look at the whole move list and try to do all of it at once. Don't do that. Start with a small core of your character's best attacks. Take a look at the move list and their heat engagers. Consider some of these, because these are all attacks that they want you to use. But also try to categorize them into spaces where you might go to them. So, for example, Paul's forward, forward, forward is a great way to go in, you know? And even though it's steppable against better players, they'll just step this. But at low level, if you want to get in, dial it up, you know? 4-4-2, another excellent option. Back 4, another excellent option. The infamous Demo Man. You can poke with that, with Death Fist. He has lots of great attacks, and also back sway 4. At mid-range, I would say, is like that. But again, you want to think about that triangular relationship with Prism, really, and try to think about how you're interacting with your opponent. So like I said, if there's a character who maybe they have a really good space control button that's hitting linearly like that, and you're too scared to try to sidestep it or something, right? Dash and try to get them to do it, but stay just out of range, go for a whiff punish or something like that. Or maybe they're waiting and seeing. Maybe they're catching on that you just like to do uppercuts or like that, right? And so now they're just going to chill. They're going to wait for you to do the uppercut and try to whip punish you. Well, that's when you dash and block. Or that's when you just attack. And thinking about matches in terms of those, that Prism relationship between poking, waiting and seeing, poking and space control, waiting and seeing, and attacking, and then blocking. Try to think about your gameplay in those terms. And when you play matches, try to think about what is happening in terms of that chart, in terms of that relationship. Let me know if that helped you any. Catch you guys next time.